Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Irvine International Academy's February 27th regularly scheduled board meeting. We're going to begin this evening with a roll call, and in doing so, it'll be a call to order as well. I'm going to start on my left, and I'll just ask for an acknowledgement. I'm Molly Chang.
Present.
And I'm Doug Hughes, and I'm present as well. To my right, Brett Freeman, present. And also Felipe Delgado.
Present.
And I'll acknowledge also online David Sun.
Present.
And David will be present with us and participate, but not voting tonight because we didn't have time. He's taking care of, I think, a child at home, but we're glad that you have flexibility and joined us. And then also Miller Zhang, are you here and can you acknowledge?
Present.
Thank you. And Miller's address was presented in the minutes that were posted as 22737 Holy Rood Avenue, Maple Ridge, British Columbia, Canada. Wonderful. That gives us an opportunity to begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. For those remote, you'll have to imagine in your mind a pledge to the flag. For those here and are able to stand, let's face the flag. I think it's going to be a little tricky to move around. Felipe, you're always so good at leading us out. Could I?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ready? Begin. Release.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did we actually
For board members, if you had opportunity to review the order of the agenda, let me know if there's any changes you desire. If not, I'll ask for a motion to accept and approve the agenda as ordered.
I motion so.
Okay, Felipe motions. A second, please. Oh, I think Molly might have gotten in there, so we'll give Molly the second on that. Then we'll do a quick roll call, starting with my left then. Roll call vote, Molly?
Yes.
And Doug is yes, and Brett?
Aye.
And also Felipe?
Yes.
And Miller?
Aye.
Okay, wonderful. David approves too. But I can't count the vote today, but that's all right. You'll still be participating in every way. That takes us to Roman numeral 2, and it'll be closed session where we have a contract. This should not be very long. We have a single contract to approve. Yeah, I'm anticipating 5 minutes at the most. We'll go mobile and then we'll be reconvening. So we'll stop the recording for a moment. We're in a private session and be right back out.
Can we just do it here?
Welcome back, everybody, to the Irvine International Academy February 27th regular scheduled board meeting. We continue now with a report out of closed session that a single employee contract was approved for substitute teacher, and the vote was unanimous with all voting members. So we'll move then to our open session and invite any public comments on non-agenda items. Any comments submitted ahead of time?
No.
Okay, wonderful. Let's turn page and move forward then to our information items, Roman numeral 5. And it's going to be exciting. We're going to have the following 3 presentations. Of course, our executive director report by Dr. Bean, and followed by our LCAP mid-year report. And then in person, Delano Jones from North Compass. And going to be exciting to get a financial update too. Great to be with you.
Yes.
Get away.
Great to be here.
I don't know if I need to turn this up a little bit or
I can hear well. How
can you hear me?
about
Okay,
Yes.
if I put it right up to my mouth. All right, so I will start with the executive report, but the mid-year LCAP will kind of bleed into it. All right, okay. So we'll first start with enrollment, steady, 375. We are doing very well. Of course, Mary Beth just walks out when I need her because we have numbers for applicants on School Mint. So you might actually even know better than me, Brett, because you follow that, right? Mary Beth, how many applicants do we have for the lottery coming up on March 20th?
We have about 270.
270 applicants. Wow. And then how many re-registered?
315.
So 315 current families have re-registered. We're tracking down the balance so that they get in there before March 20th. And then over 270 applicants at school mid. That's incredible.
This time of year.
Right now, at this time, right now. We only open enrollment only began right after New Year's in January, and it goes till March 20th. So we still have a few weeks to get to March 20th, but wow, that's a lot of people. So great job.
Any idea compared to last year when we were on this one?
Yeah, I think over 200, but not that many. Yeah, we were over 200. But to be 270, we're definitely surpassed last year. So we'll have a good wait list.
It almost needs a little bit of a applause. So-
Yeah, wow. Now, you've noticed that we put some Martinellis, so the public knows it's not champagne. It is it's Martinellis, and some cups up there, because we're gonna celebrate our annual oversight visit that we had today. OCDE came in today, and I'm gonna tell you all about it, all right? First of all, we walked the hallways in the classrooms, and I will say that our staff, our teachers, our campus safety staff, our office staff, everybody did a fine job of really displaying the amazing work that we're doing here. Walk down hallways, backpacks were neat, orderly. You walk in a classroom environment was very strong with a lot of student work up and a lot of anchor charts and everything. And it was just a beautiful presentation itself. But then we went into classrooms and we observed classrooms. I think there were about were there 5 people from OCDE, Mary Beth? So we had 5 people from OCDE, and so we had this big contingent going around to the classrooms and watching our teachers do their thing. And everywhere we went, you could see the impressed looks upon their faces and the smiles that they had as they walked around and watched our program. Then they reviewed both personnel files and they reviewed CUME files of our students and special ed files. They also had interviews with our special ed program, and interviews with our teachers, and had interviews with our board. So thank you, Brett, Felipe, and Doug for being a part of that. And then after that, tomorrow we have one more Zoom interview with Delano, myself, and Mary Beth around the finances. But package it all together. At the end of the day, they gave a debrief, and Brett was a part of this, and so if he wants to join in as well. But these are the things that they said, and this is why we have the Martinellis. First of all, they said it was very difficult to actually pull next steps for us. They said that the comparison in the morning before we debriefed, they said the comparison between the walkthrough today versus where we started, right? Year 1 was just night and day, and they were absolutely floored by what they're seeing here. They were just amazed at the systems that we put into place in our instruction. So let me give you some highlights from their visit today. They said, first of all, we have a very pleasant school environment, very welcoming. Classroom management behavior of kids were just very high and very strong. They said that there were a lot of student learning going on, whether it was centers or small groups, and that the level of metacognition was high. They really enjoyed the fact that our teachers pulled students in groups based on ability level to help students both in Mandarin and in English. They also saw a lot of teacher collaboration and staff collaboration, but they're very impressed how teachers meet with their leads, work together weekly and regularly to really collaborate on lesson planning. They said that the work that they saw in the student education they saw was very rigorous. And that's music to principals' ears because we want high academic rigor, right? That is across the nation, academic rigor has taken a lower priority to some of the other things out there. And so I want this public to know that we take academic rigor very seriously, and that's our number one priority for students. And so that's why we see amazing student achievement. We started the day by showing them our program and then our results, and they were just blown away by our results, both the state testing and then internal results that we have done with iReady and Level Learning. They were very, very impressed with the student work that was displayed. For kindergartners to actually write paragraph on their own, they said they don't see that at other schools. And so if you ever have a chance, the kindergarten class is right over here. Their student work and their writing is just amazing. And we did focus on writing this year, so it's good to see the product of that. They really liked the fact that our teachers have data talks, and they said it was very powerful, and that when every classroom has displayed the student data from the latest internal assessment, and the students in the older grades make goals, learning goals based off of that. So they really like that a lot. They do appreciate that in our plan, we are thinking about GATE and that we're going to be implementing it at the end of this year, toward the end of this year. The list goes on, but I'm going to share all of them because these are great things. Like I said, good level of metacognition with the teachers as well as students. And then they said that all classrooms were very consistent displaying their objective standards and their schedules. And they appreciated that the schedules that were on the board actually matched what the students were doing. And oftentimes, you don't see that. So that means that they're really consistent with their schedule. Now, on the operational side, they said that all student files were organized, very organized. That's a Mary Beth, a Rose, a Sai, all student files. They said that the special education files were very impressive. And just know that both could land any school in trouble if they don't do special education correctly, obviously. And the special education interview went excellent. It was actually the lead of special education for OCD UK. And so she interviewed our director of student services and was very impressed with the way how we service our special education students. They appreciate that we do have 504 process here, SST process, and say some more things. Let's see. Oh, that was page 1. Oh yeah. So when we walked in classrooms, they saw students were using manipulatives. And they're very pleased to see that students were using that during math lessons. And that they were using it meaningfully, right? It's that it wasn't just things on the table to play with, but they're actually using it as they were learning. And then they appreciate our approach to science this year. Because I showed them the results, we increased in ELA, we increased in math, but I also showed them that we decreased in science. And so they asked us what our plan was, and we explained that not only did we up our game with STEAM, and not only did we have the science fair really helped our students understand the scientific method, but we're also teaching science in English more than we have in the past. In the past, we taught science in Mandarin. So making that shift this year to teaching science more in English is really going to be helpful. So we should definitely see the fruit of that work as well. So those are just some of the amazing things, and she'll give us a more thorough report. Some of the things that they wanted challenges on, and they're really only a 3. One was that they would like us to actually have a standardized social studies curriculum. We use Wonders, which is social studies aligned to standards, but they would actually like us to purchase a social studies curriculum. So we're going to look at that, and I'm going to put that bug into Delano's ear, so we might have to plan for that for next year. But our teachers, after I gave that debrief, said today that we are teaching social studies through standards. So we don't need a very robust curriculum. But, you know, we'll get something. They also want to, they love the fact that we participated in the county spelling bee and participated in the county science fair. They would love to see us participate in the history day for the county and art shows for the county. So we said, okay, great, we'll work on that for next year. And then the other thing was just making sure that we have a resource room for our special education program, which we'll get back next year, so that won't be a problem. This year, we used it for strategic kids during the day, but that will go away because we're gonna only have transitional kindergarten. We're gonna have 2 classes going in parallel instead of 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. So those are some of the amazing things that OCDE, all 5 of them, even the supervisor, what's her name? Teresa? No, Teresa, she was very impressed. And so that's why we had the Martinellis up there, because we want to celebrate you guys for really supporting our school and celebrate our schools in general, our school in general. I didn't get a glass. Would you mind grabbing me one too? Thank you. And then I want to turn over to Brett, Doug, Felipe, any thoughts around today's oversight review as we celebrate?
Yeah, I would say that I participated at least in the first half with the Orange County Board of Education discussion about policy and governance, and it was well conducted, and our answers were illustrated with what's actually happening here. And I think we now are in a great season where and the borders and doing what we ought to be doing. Meeting all the policy objectives, communicating. That's where I mentioned you, Delana, the communication, fiscal condition of the school, plans, the budget, pro forma, all of that. So I like that. Programmatically, I was going to come after I had to jump out of the meeting. So I think the other two would have to comment on that. But it was a great discussion. And I'll just say on this, no major recommendations. These are minor recommendations, which means they really affirm the program the teachers have implemented and administration. I'm thrilled. I've been through many accreditations. This is amazing, right? I think, wow. How about anything from Maureen's meeting with us online today? Either of you?
I think you guys covered most of the territory. I think for me, my biggest takeaway was how impressed she was and how different it was. You know, last year better than the first year, but this year the best type thing, and continuously getting better. First year just trying to get our legs under us, just trying to figure out what we're doing, and and really making an amazing performance. Adding all of these programs, really quite impressive.
For me, this is the first time that I've been involved with the accreditation, right? But based on my experience, I can always tell when you're getting a good review or a bad review, regardless of what the activity is, the industry is. And I could tell right away, this was way too easy for her. That's how I could tell. It was just way too easy because everything was, lining up, and it was very minimal. There was no conflict, no surprises, no nothing. Her job was done.
Yeah.
And it sounded to me like they did quite a bit of an inspection, and to me, they see what I see because I spent a lot of time here and I see the same thing. I was just really pleased that they saw everything I see, and it's great. Yeah, actually lines up. Yeah, it's great. That's my take on it.
And I think the best thing, the greatest feeling is to be able to walk these classes, but see that the kids are really learning and that they're enjoying being a part of our family here.
They want to come.
And they want to come, right? Yeah, and they're just really, they feel part of this community. And I think that's the greatest feeling right there, the students.
Well, I would love to propose a toast with this, then. First, to the parents who have invested here, to the children that bring joy every day, to our teachers who are just bringing the goods, and our administration, which has created and implemented the policies, to each of you from our board, Here. We're very pleased.
You're here, cheers.
Congratulations.
All right, now that's gonna segue into my next part of the report. I think either last meeting or even the meeting prior, there seemed to be a theme among a few of the board members that David, Brett, Felipe, that we're starting to get great financial reports, right? And so what about getting reports that actually give us a progress of what you, the executive director, is doing and how we're progressing to that? So what better time to do that than now, which is mid-year? And so right now, I'm going to give you the mid-year update on how we're doing in those goals and actions from our LCAP. All right, and I think that if the board holds the executive director to be accountable to anything, it's to be accountable to this plan, which is the LCAP, as I said last year. So just a reminder, what is the LCAP? It's a 3-year plan that basically describes our goals and actions, and it is required by the state for us to submit and for you to approve every June. And it's also an opportunity to just really tell you about what's going on and to get input from our stakeholders, right? Families, board, and things like that. The LCAP has to address these 8 priorities, and these 8 priorities fall within these 3 categories: condition of learning, student outcome, and engagement. So as I go through this, as I go through the update in progress, it's going to fit within these 8 priorities. The timeline, just so you know, January and February is when, which we're in right now, is when we assess how we're doing on the LCAP. When I work with Delano to actually update our expenditures based on our goals, and then to begin holding engagement meetings with our parents and staff, which we're going to do through Coffee with the Principals, and we're going to do it through our ELAC, so that we can then begin to draft a LCAP for the next year in March and April. And then we finalize it with finance. We come to you in June and give you a presentation, and then you approve it. And then that cycle happens annually. So what is the purpose of today, me giving you the report? Well, not only does it provide the public and you a current update, but it also helps you to monitor the progression of the work that we do here. If I'm held accountable to these goals, you want to know how I'm doing. And so I know that David and Brett and Felipe, you mentioned that you desired more of that. So it also meets legal requirements. This giving you updates on the LCAP. And here are the legal requirements. And then it gives you just a few things you know. There isn't actually a template that the state is mandating. But what I did was Delano and I went through the current LCAP that we have, and we inserted some columns into tables to give you update. Now, we included that in the board document. You should have been able to look at the current update, but I'm going to highlight 30,000 foot view from the mid-year report that I did and then present it to you instead, okay? But if you have time, and I hope you did in the last 48 hours, 72 hours, to look through the LCAP and its additional progress columns that we added. You're not required to approve it or update it. This is mainly, or adopt it. This is mainly an update for you, okay? And it will not be included or attached to the next year's LCAP. But the information presented should be used, obviously, to inform our LCAP for next year. All right, so here we go. Goal 1, if you remember, was basically action implementation status levels for goal 1 was basically to, why is that on? I didn't put that on here. So let me go to the LCAP and I'll tell you what the goal 1 was. Unless somebody's pulling it up and you can tell me actually what it is. Let's see who's faster, me or you. All right, I'm faster. Goal 1. Ensure all scholars are meaningfully engaged and achieve in rigorous and standard-aligned dual immersion program in both English and Mandarin, and students are engaged in academic intervention if necessary. And we see it hits these 4 priorities, 2, 4, 7, and 8. Now, if we go back to the presentation, I'm gonna get rid of this little doodad. All right, there we go. There are actions, right, underneath that goal. And so here are the actions, and here's the percentage completed. Hire, retain highly qualified staff, 100% done there. And have intervention and acceleration program. So we have that with MLD and ELD. Assessments and programs. So we have that with iReady and Level Learning, SBAC and LPAC. Add additional staff. We did that with Director of Student Services and hiring a consultant for Mandarin. Robust special education program. So this year we've increased services, including a counselor that comes once a week for the entire day. We've included increased speech services, and we've also we have hired a one-on-one special education aide. So our special education program is definitely a focus here. Purchase curriculum materials. So we had to purchase for middle school, 100% done. And then expansion of the middle school. So we have done that. And so we're prepared for our 8th graders coming in next year. Library. One of the actions was to improve our library. Well, one of the first things, amazing, the tour this morning, I heard a couple comments from OCD and they said, hey, do you remember this library a couple years ago? There was barely any books on it. Look at it now. This is impressive. And that was from their words, right? So we're about 90%, I think, there. I think that the other 10% is really getting more Mandarin books in there. ELD program. So we create an ELD program where we test our kids, we determine what groups they go in, we pull groups, and we help provide services to our English learners in these small groups. And we've created an LPAC, or ELAC, which is English Learner Advisory Committee. 60% there. The 40% then is now monitoring the progress of those students. And so we're development of that. Staff development. Well, we've gone through half a year, so we've accomplished half of the staff development. We've got another half a year to do. Notice that gate identification. I put 0% because even though it's in our minds what we'd like to do, we haven't identified one gate student yet. So by the end of this year, we're going to be testing our, I believe it's our 4th graders and 6th graders using OSAT. Okay. And then we're going to begin identifying gifted and talented students. Now, what happens when we identify gifted and talented students? 2 things. One, the teacher who has that student will know that they have to have enrichment activities for our gifted students. We actually do that right now. And then 2, a letter will go into their permanent CUME file so that the next school, whether it's a middle school or high school, knows that this is a gifted and talented student. Okay, so those are really the 2 things we do. So that's goal 1. I'm going to pause there. Any questions in terms of providing a rigorous academic program and the actions that we've taken?
So you mentioned the LCAP is a 3-year. So when we say these percentages, what are you looking to complete? Are they all going to be 100% by the end of?
Yeah. My goal is these are 100% by the end of, we're in the 3rd year, by the way, of the LCAP. So we have to be done with these actions by the end of this year. But typically, yes, you would take 3 years to actually complete the implementation.
Yeah, I would just add that I've seen the English language program and the individual students, because I'm here, right, and see those activities, and yeah, it's fantastic. I can see when they pull them out, now that they've done group, they get pulled out and get extra help in that particular activity. I see that going on all the time. The gate identification, I got to tell you, get every kid in that class. That, you know,
Yeah.
in, Mr. Gibson's class.
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
90% of them are probably gay students, you know, that
Yeah.
level of education that he's providing them. I don't know how he can make it any harder for them.
Yeah.
Right? I really don't. You know, that fifth grade class, those fifth, sixth graders that we have right now, I think we'd be overwhelmed with the.
I think we'll be overwhelmed with gay for all the kids that we test for sure. Yeah, we have a lot of gifted kids.
So,
But that's because of the instruction that's going on by teachers, right? Really challenging our students, right?
that's it. So,
Okay,
So which program are you gonna use for the testing for gate?
the OSAT 6. Yeah, so it'll be online, our computer test, and because we're gonna have to test everybody really. Right. All right. Now, goal 2 is, let's go back here. And by the way, you see all the things I just shared with you on our update. I put in this LCAP, so you can see them in here. And then the expenditures are in here as well, but we're gonna go over that in a couple of seconds. All right, so here is goal 2 coming right now. Under the areas of positive school climate and student engagement, and it hits 4 priorities. And it's create a safe, inclusive, and welcoming school climate where students and staff are engaged and fully invested in students' academic, health, and social emotional learning. So as you can see, it has to do with just the whole being of our kids. Do they feel safe learning here? And so our update for that are these actions on the left and the implementation percentage on the right. So one was communication. Have we upped our game with how we communicate to families? Absolutely, very strong. I think we've implemented what we need to implement to really keep a good, close relationship with our community. Hire a director of student services. We've done that. That's in our LCAP. And then classroom behavior support. So we have implemented community circles, safe places in classrooms. And so I think our teachers have done an amazing job with that. That's 100%. Then we have MTSS and PBIS in assemblies. We're about 90% there. I think to be 100% there, we really want to engage our teachers in really implementing all of character counts. Right now, I think we're on pillar 4 of 6, but they haven't been trained in 5 and 6 yet. So that's going to get us up to 100. Team building. I don't think team building will ever be 100% because you're constantly team building. But I put that about 75%. We've done a lot of team building activities this year. We also some actions to accomplish this goal is we have offer more engagement activities for our families and students. And so our students, spelling bee, science fair, these are engaging activities. Mental health. And so we increased our counseling services for our students. And I know it's hit our budget, but it was planned for in the LCAP. And then we have a very safe facility and continue asking for facility. This will be 100% at the end of the year because we're not done with that work. We're halfway through the year. There's still students to serve in terms of our mental health of our kids. SEL curriculum. So there, like I said, is the character counts. I think we've done a good job training our teachers and talking about it in our PBIS assemblies. I actually will have one tomorrow. But we need to do a better job at actually implementing daily lessons or weekly lessons in the classroom so that the students can talk this common language. And so that may not be 100% by the end of this year, but it will be hopefully by next year.
Who's actually conducting that training?
So it's actually character counts. They've trained our lead teachers. Our lead teachers then train our teachers, our staff. And then the wellness program and SART training. So the wellness program is a program called HEART. And it's a program that has been vetted by very reputable organizations. And the reason why I like this program is because it involves parents and parent participation in the health curriculum. All right, whereas many other health curriculums actually try to push parents out of that talk. With this program, actually, the premise is kids are going to learn wellness and health with the active participation of parents. So we're going to implement that in the spring. In SART, we have not actually held formal SART. What SART is basically for attendance. We sent out letters to parents when they reached 10%, missing 10% or more. We've had individual meetings, but we have not actually had a formal SART meeting with the parent. So that's the next step in this evolution. Formally having people around a table with the parent and almost like having a hearing with the parent. Okay, so that's what SART is. Okay.
Can I volunteer?
Yeah, well, I'd love for you. You can go in there and.
You better be sure, because I feel strongly about this.
Yeah, I know.
You may say something that's.
Yeah, the individual meetings with me and the director of student services, those are nice meetings. Those are meetings to really help with a plan. But SART is not really necessarily that nice meeting.
Well, I think you're past that, right? Because
Right.
potentially the big issue that's causing that
Right.
problem doesn't need the Fleet Delgado response.
Right.
It needs the concerned executive director, right?
Mhm.
But once you're past that, you need something else.
Exactly. 100% agree.
Dr. Bean, are we reinforcing some of the character training by recognizing students that exhibit those characteristics?
Yeah, we do that in daily and weekly and monthly. So daily is they get these Panda Pals.
Okay.
And if you collect enough, you get a prize out of the box, or you get lunch with Dr. Bean. Next 2 weeks, I'm having lunch with 3 kids and actually buying them lunch. So I've had lunch with kids last week. And so they earn those Panda Pals by displaying those character traits. Then weekly in community circles, the teachers go over it. And then monthly, we have our award assemblies. So tomorrow we'll have our award assembly for February.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, and then the last goal is around parent-family engagement. So the goal is to create an engaged parent, student, and staff, and overall community population that is fully invested in and actively connected to the school community and academic program. Here are the actions. One is that our family has access to dual immersion online support. We implemented Level Learning this year. And that's the online platform for our parents to offer support to their kids at home. And we also had hired the consultant to help with the dual immersion aspect of our school. And we also have parent workshops with our dual immersion, our mentoring families. So implementation level there is 100%. That actually should be probably decreased a little bit because we still have days with our consultant coming up. Parent engagement and workshops, like I just mentioned, we have monthly parent workshops. We have parent workshops to discuss iReady data to help with our online platforms, help enroll kids, things like that. I think the next parent workshop will be around making sure we re-register properly. So a lot of different things. And then bilingual community outreach support. So that has basically been Sai-Sai's job. So she's been transitioning away from office assistant job to really being a community outreach person. So that we can, but she's done an amazing job bringing them here. The next step, the other half of her job should be now going out to the community and really sharing with the community what we're doing and building partnerships with organizations. So she's done an amazing job with the first half, bringing people in and making them feel part of the community. But now we want to push it out. And that's why that's at 50%. We also, part of that is that we hired, we have on contract a Russian translator. So she interprets for us during SST meetings, fair workshops, and things like that for our big population of Russian speaking families. All right, any questions about Goal 3? All right, so there is where we're at with that. Now, let me just give you some metrics. Our chronic absenteeism in month 6, half of the year. Last year, we had 15.4%. This year, 12.4%. So we made improvement there, significant improvement, actually. We've right now only reclassified for 1 student. Last year, we reclassified 18, but the reason why we only reclassified 1 is because actually taking the summative test now. And they're taking the summative all the way until April through April, and that's how we reclassify. All right, so that number really is not important for me right now. Average daily attendance last year, 94%. This year, 95.6. So we've increased that. Not only does that help obviously with ADA and revenue, but it keeps kids here at school to really learn. Suspension rate. Last year we had 3 students we suspended. This year we had 1, and we're not going to suspend anymore. The students are doing well. Certainly we do have some behavior challenges, but we're working with them through more positive, behavior support. The CAS, we already went through that at the beginning here, 83 to 84%. English learn progress indicator, by the way, this is given by the state dashboard once a year. We don't have a current number yet, so we can't really compare this. But CAS, last year 69 to 76. ELA, and then science, we dropped from 84 to 50. We're going to see a significant increase of that. iReady, amazing from fall to winter, 47 to 66, and then 44 to 65. And we should see both of those numbers well in the 70s in the spring. So those are some of the midterm highlights. Let's look at some of the expenditures so you know. For goal 1, we planned about 2.4 million. We spent about 1.5 almost. Okay. Goal 2, we planned about a little over 600,000, and we spent half of that. And then goal 3, which is the family engagement, we spent about 65,000, and then the mid-year expenditure is about 52. So if you want detail broken down by actions, it's all in the LCAP. All right, we'll pause there. Any questions about the mid-year report?
Question on the last slide. The planned expenditures is for the year.
Correct.
Guess I'm curious, mid-year plan versus the actual mid-year.
Well, this is the actual mid-year, which is mid-year expenditures, so you're asking.
Yeah, but I mean, the plan versus the actual, or the time period that we're supposed to use.
Yes, and so Delano will talk more about that in the interim report today. Yeah. Good. All right, any other questions? Whew. Okay, we did it. So we went through the mid-year performance update, and I'm going to turn it over to Delano to give us an update on finances.
Alrighty. If I plug in, it will just jump right up.
Here, I'll unplug this and then you plug that in.
Okay.
Right here.
Get out of your way, Delano. Yeah, you're welcome. No problem. What's that?
Not bad after being here for 12 hours.
I know.
Enthusiasm still at this late hour.
Ask me about 30 minutes.
Yeah, these days get long. Help me, Mary Beth. That man doesn't like me. Oh, okay. I'm glad it's not me.
You know, that's how we do it, man. But in IT, you just keep pushing.
Just
the
keep
button.
Yeah, just keep banging on something and it'll eventually work.
Eventually it comes along.
Yeah.
Can you do it on a presentation mode so it's bigger or
Oh, yeah, it's pretty big.
what are you using? What program are you using?
Oh, this is just my PDF.
Oh, it's PDF, okay.
Yeah.
Cause we can get rid of like the gray areas. You can,
I can bring it up. Can you guys see that okay, or do I need to switch?
it's okay.
So far, so far so good.
I'm looking for my glasses.
Here's the glasses, right?
See here, fit on one page with one window. Like click on that.
This is yours.
Thank you.
Oh, no, I think it's, yeah, okay. Oh, wait, here it is, full screen mode. Good done. Click.
Right there.
There we go.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Tag, nothing like teamwork.
That's
And I think that
Collaboration.
Again, just keep pushing the buttons.
Dr. Bean exudes a lot of teamwork. So we're looking at financials through January. And this will be a combination, obviously, from July 1 all the way through. So we're looking at roughly here, what is that? Almost 60% of the fiscal year, and roughly almost 50% of the school year in terms of student activities, things like that. But as we all know, this operation never really ceases or closes. It never shuts down, right? Because this is a 365-day per year. And if anyone likes to debate that a school closes, I beg to differ. Let's dive in really quickly. We're going to look at revenues here. This is just for the month of January, right? As I mentioned, we're about 60% of the way through the school year. In your board, in your packet, you should have all of this information. Hopefully you guys had some late night reading last night because you were all bored and you wanted to just sort of take a deep dive. $478,740 in revenues came in the month of January. And I'll talk a little bit about what all of this means from this point going forward. And you can see here the breakdown of that 200,000, our biggest portion of revenues, our LCFF, another 56,000 in federal revenues. Most of that related to our grant. And the grant, I'm happy to say, we have expensed all of the funds for that. And I believe the last portion will be coming once you've turned in the that report.
Which is done already.
Yeah, awesome.
Did they give you update on when it's coming in?
If you turned it in,
It turned last month.
yeah, it'll be 6 to 8 weeks from
Okay.
yeah, from now. Other state revenues comprised of lottery, special education, our ELOP, and our lunch program revenues. And then we have some local donations here and some interest amount. You can sort of see where those are all shake out. Let's look at year to date. Year to date, 2 million in revenues. Thus far, we have about roughly 3.6 more million to receive. And you can see here again just how this breaks out 1.3 million. About 64% of that number is our LCFF. It will always be the biggest portion. I was doing cartwheels mentally when you guys were talking about the enrollment and the growth, because I know what that translates to down the road later on. More students, more revenues, right? Local revenues, 82,000. Again, I can't go without saying the contributions of PTO and the other outside support that comes in for the school is amazing, right? I'm glad to know that there are supporters out there, especially from the parent group and also from the foundation as well, in terms of being able to provide some amount of resources and support to the school. It's not normal that you see that in a public entity just like this, but it's always great when you can captivate your parents, because our parents are number one fans for the most part. And once they're on board with support, we know that we'll be fine. Other state revenues here, 28%. Sort of see that reflected here as well. And then our federal revenues here as well of 83,000. That's year to date, 2 million. Let's look at prior year comparison. So the red columns were where we were last year. orange columns where we are this year. So if you recall, a year ago, I had mentioned that you were being paid on the prior year number, which was higher. Now this is, looking back, you can see this is why this is lower, because then the current year ADA was lower at that point in time. That's why that is. And the same thing across, as you can see here though, but we have more of this. State revenues, more special ed revenues. We're recognizing some of those one-time funding that we got from the state as well. Learning Recovery Block Grant, Art and Music Block Grant as well. Those are one-time revenues, but we recognize some of that revenue this year because we're able to tie it to expenses in terms of programs and things that were happening around the school. Local revenues obviously dipped here because last year we had a little bit more support earlier on than we did to this point in time. But nonetheless, I think we're going to go up as we get closer with the gala and things like that. Let's talk about some of our expenses. For January, we spent $449,000. You can see here how that transpired. Again, always our salaries and benefits will always be the biggest portion of that. Equates for about 73% of our expenses for the month. And it's par for the course in terms of where we are month over month. Program, about $20,000. Operations, $98,000. We made an adjustment to the other outgo, which reflected a deficit, or should I say a negative amount, the credit of $1,513. Let's look at year to date because this is key. All right, so year to date, we spent $3.3 million in expenses. And I'll sort of just read here, $3.3 million of our total budget. And I'll show you that in a minute because I made some adjustments to the budget as well to reflect some of these things here. Salaries and benefits, as I mentioned, again, you can see there overall 59%, which will always be the case here for us. Books and supplies, $367,000. That's a direct investment, to Dr. B's point, in the program. So those expenditures that you see in the LCAP, and I believe Brent had asked a question about where does that show up in real life? Here it is right here, right? $367,000 in books and supplies, another $743,000 in terms of operational items. Some of those are, all of these here reflected in that mid-year report that Dr. Bean just referenced. 7%. And this is what I want to point out right here, right? This is what it's cost us to borrow, right? So the sooner we can get away from this, and I'm not saying that Grow Schools, which is the name of Charter Schools Capital now, it hasn't been a good ally for us, but they're an expensive friend, right? They're an expensive date, right? And we don't necessarily want to have to, every time we go out on a date, spend this kind of money here, right? We want to be able to at least go to the movies, enjoy ourselves without breaking the bank, right? And this is exactly what's happening here. So we're working our way out of that, but that is the road out of that is very long and bumpy, right? And again, as I mentioned about enrollment earlier, that is our key or our highway out of this, right? Overall total expenses, I mentioned $3,310,000. Compare, we have about $2.2 million left to spend, right? Prior year, you can see where we are, right? So red is last year, brown is this current year. Again, we should be higher, right? Because there were some raises and things like that, personnel that were added on in terms of that, right? Again, here, look at this though. Right, only about 60,000 more, which is, and this is managing the budget to the best of our ability in terms of only spending to what we need to here, right? So last year, 306,000, this year, 367. Again, here, 743,000. This should be higher, which is expected because we have some more consultants, things like that are built in. Costs are higher this year than they were last year. I do most of the grocery shopping at my house, and I know this to be true because every time I go buy eggs, the price of those things are going this way, right? And then they'll come back down, but then they just miraculously go back up again. And I sort of track those things mentally in terms of that. But again, our costs overall, it costs more this year than it did last year overall. And again, as I mentioned here, our total other outgo, $233,000. This is directly related to our borrowing from charter schools capital. Let's look at this. At some point tonight, you're going to approve the interims and you're going to approve this column that's highlighted in yellow, right? Let's look at what happened. So these are actuals, as I mentioned here, 3.3 million in terms of expenses, 2 million in terms of revenue. Look how far behind we're chasing our expenditures here, right? Par for the course, right? Roughly about 40% of our revenues have come in, but look down here, right? 68% of our expenses, right? Let's look at what's changed, right? So this is the budget that we approved back earlier in the fiscal year, right? We added more students. I believe when I did your P1, you said 372, I say 371. There's a small, maybe one student there, different, but you can see that reflected here because I updated that, right? So we gained roughly 600,000 here with recognizing, the additional students, things like that. Revenues here went down because we expensed most of the PCSGP this year. State revenues went up because we recognized the Learning Recovery Grant, the Art and Music Grant that equated for that there. And then local revenues went up. And again, because of the commitment, I believe we had a couple of donations and or grants from the local. I believe it was Helen Hogue and the PTO made some commitments, things like that. That's the reason that went up. All right, Dr. B mentioned earlier that he made some investments in some salaries and staffing positions. That's reflected here as well. And you can see the change there with that. Same here without certificated. I projected this out a little bit better, and this actually went down 5,000. So I tried to find as much savings as I possibly could in these areas by just reforecasting what we've spent. I know what's coming in terms of actual expenses that you and I have discussed, potentially things like that. So we made that adjustment here, right? I did bump this up, right? I had to, because I think it's, we have maybe about another month or two of borrowing that we must do to sort of get ourselves, because this is the year that we're sort of floating along back to where we should be in terms of student numbers, recognizing that revenue next year, right? Because it takes such a long time for this doggone thing to catch up, that we're sort of in this mode of where we're rich, but we're house poor, right? At the same time, right? Whichever way you want to say that. Overall, our net income went from projected of 183, but it went down to 119. And again, that's just because, we had more expenditures in here, and I'm accounting for more expenditures here as a result of this, right? So when you look at the interims tonight, I'm going to ask you to, this will be the new revised budget that will take effect. I will also show you the out years and what that looks like, because the biggest question is, hey, Delana, when are we going to get out of this hole, right? And we will, right? It takes time. Let's look at a couple of other things while we're here. Let's look at our balance sheet. So this year versus last year, right? This year, you can see we have a little bit more cash in our treasury, but we have less in the bank. It's a wash, right? 79 positive there, but then 210,000 down there less. We can look at our overall receivables and things like that. With 513,000 net assets this year. Last year we had 686, but this was misleading last year because we know that there were things that were coming down. I was going to adjust for that. Let's look at our liabilities, right? And this is where you can see that. Look at this like here last year. We didn't have any borrowing at this point last year from Charter Schools Capital. Look at where we are this year in terms of borrowing from Charter Schools Capital, right? 1.7 million, right? Our loan payments went down though, which is great because we're paying off this loan, right? We're at 187 last year in terms of what we owe back to the state for the revolving loan. At this point, we only owe them 124,000. Also recognize more unearned revenues to the tune of about $47,000 or so, give or take there, right? Our total liabilities now, and then most of that is here. Once we get rid of our dear friends here, this will start to look much better because we want this to be higher than this at all points in time. Total liabilities of 2.6 million. this is where we began the year. We ended the year right here with this huge deficit, right? You add back in this current net loss of 1.2 million through January, puts our fund balance at a deficit of 2,087,000. Last year at this point in time, it was just 189,000 again, because there was no borrowing here. We hadn't reached that critical point because at P1, we were being, prior to P1 last year, we're being funded on the prior year 88, which was way higher, right? And as soon as P1 came around, oh, we were getting less money. Thus the reason that kicked it, right? As I mentioned, our cash, right? We have, at the end of January, we had 499,000 in both accounts. As you can see where we were the year before, and that's to be expected. So net here of about $130,000 less. I'll take questions or comments and feedback on this, and I'll go into the budget multi-year forecast for the interim. I'm sorry, for the second interim report.
So just a quick summary, see if I check me on this. So we've become about a $5.8 million operation. And that just tells us about our size now.
Yes.
Do you ever do any comparison between other charter schools? Is
I
it
do.
pretty consistent? And it's pretty much what I would expect with the number of students we've grown to.
Mhm.
But I'd love to get your reflections.
Yes.
On accurate.
So, and that's a great question, because, you know, sometimes you always want to check and see how you're doing compared to the neighbors and things like that. Student numbers are really the only way sometimes to do that comparison, because, you know, it's you know, while we may have the same identical shoes, we have different shoe sizes, right? And so that makes a little bit of a difference as well in the overall things, right? But compared to, you know, another school that has our 372 students, revenues will relatively be the same, plus or minus, give or take. There's some demographics that will change some of these numbers a little bit, plus or minus, right? You don't get a whole lot of federal revenues. And that's one thing I've talked to Dr. Bean about, in terms of, you know, we want to be able to tap into that. But for demographics here, you know, we're spending this much effort for this much output, right? And so it's sometimes, what is the phrase? The juice is not worth the squeeze. To some degree, but, you know, we may take a look at it, and if it isn't, then we'll walk away from it. But again, I always like to make sure that we check, just to make sure that it's worth it.
Most of those tied to low income.
Yes, absolutely. Low income, homeless, free and reduced, you know, those types of things. And this population does not reflect that. I believe your overall unduplicated count is under 30% here. Right, so that's pretty low. Usually in your Title I schools, you're looking at the upper 70, 75, 80% of the entire school population. We're not even remotely close to that, right? So that's the downside sometimes, to your point about comparisons, is that another school, they may have the same enrollment, but they don't have the same types of students, right? And that makes all the difference in the world, right? This is only year 3, right? We're brand new still. We're still infants, right? In 2 more years, and I think OCD summed this up best. Every time they come out here, things get better, right? And this is the way that this will be reflected here as well. Had you not lost so many students in year 2, your balance sheet looks,
we didn't lose those students,
completely different.
and we didn't have those other liabilities. It
Yeah.
would look different.
Yeah, and so that is the takeaway from this, is that we're starting to turn the corner, but we're not around the corner yet, right? We're still sort of crawling ourselves, digging ourselves out of this hole. We've had to make some investments in borrowing that we didn't necessarily want to, but we had to, right? Because the survivability becomes, hey, do I bite my finger to survive, or do I just, you know, lay back and let nature take its course? And I think most of us would fight to the bitter end for survival, and I think this is what we're doing here. Any other questions from the board, comments, etc.?
Hey, Deanna, I have a question here. Sorry, David here.
Yeah, hi, David.
Yeah. It's a great summary presentation. Quick question: What in your projection? What is when you're gonna reach break-even point? If you have a timeline.
Here we go.
We planted them.
Yeah. Go right over here. I believe we forgot to send this on Saturday. Dr. B, you mentioned that you had 250 students on that. Interested,
270.
270, thank you.
Yep. Mhm.
270. Boy, if they would give us the entire run of this place, right, we'd be out of this hole a lot sooner.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But because we're limited in how much of this space we can occupy, right? You know, our growth and our way out takes a little bit longer. Let's get right to the chase. So let's look at the out year projections. We'll go down here. This is just the budget that we just looked at. All right. This is
Green is year one, that we're in right now.
yes. So this one, here, right?
Next two fiscal years.
Let me get right down there. David, your answer is right here. So this is next year, right? And this is projected on a much lower student enrollment than what you're mentioning. I have next year's student enrollment at 472 students, roughly 451 ADA.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's about right, right?
451,
ADA.
ADA.
Yeah, which is about 96-ish percent attendance rate, right? And this is just a bare, you know, we haven't tapped into the, hey, what can we do locally to help ourselves, right? I've carried us as far as we can to get up to about a $30,000 deficit by next June, right? But we can make this happen faster, right? If we say, hey, look, what can we do to raise more revenues, right? We need more revenues, right? Or the other side is we start cutting expenses. That's the worst way to do this because it takes away from the program that you've invested in, right? You know, we talked about a number of things. What's built in here is about a 3% increase in salaries. You know, we could sort of mitigate that.
We're freezing that. So that's, you built 3% increase?
Yes, I did.
No, you take
Yes,
that out. We're freezing it.
Right. So that will get us out of this a lot sooner, right? But I didn't want to not include something there because I know that, you know, the politics of a school is, hey, look, you know, you can't expect me to do the same job next year for the price this year, right? For the most part, right? And we know that cost goes up. And I built in the cost in terms of growth, based on growth. So all your expenses for next year are based on the difference between your current enrollment and your enrollment next year, whatever that percentage is. I built that into the growth in terms of curriculum, program things, operational matters, things like that for the most. There are some fixed costs that are negotiated through contracts and things like that that will not, you know, factor into that much, but for the most part. And again, we can manipulate those a little bit because as we get closer to next year, Dr. Beam will say, well, Delano, we are not going to need this many more textbooks. We're not going to need that because we have residuals. We're not going to need that technology. So David, to your point, June of 25, we're back to where we should be, right? And that's only a $30,000 deficit here, but that could be cleared out there you are. That could be cleared out relatively easy in terms of just having more enrollment and or additional revenues to mitigate this small. And then as we get into 25, 26, you know, boy, are we looking good, right?
Just a refresher, next fall enrollment, ADA, we'll start seeing revenue from,
A year from now, exactly.
yeah, so it'll be winter of
Of 25, yes. So how it works is like this. So P1 was just certified last week, right? So now what we're going to see is that we're going to get that true up, right? And we'll get paid on our 354 ADA. It's 372 enrollment, 354 ADA, right? So we'll start getting paid on that. We were still being paid, Molly, on 200 and whatever that was from last year, right? Much lower. So we've gained almost 100 ADA in that standpoint. Next year, we'll gain another 100 ADA, right? So every year we're gaining more which is the ladder that we need to climb ourselves out of this hole, right? But we're still going to have some investment with Charter Schools Capital or some capital partner to bridge that gap until, because the snapshots, to your point, Brent, are only almost a year from when, a year from now before we start to recognize that uptick in revenue. And it'll be the same for the next year, it'll be another year, right? But as you look here, you will see that in 26, we're right where we should be in terms of now having positive net income, healthy fund balance, right? So we're projecting that, we're going to finish this year with about, we're going to still have a deficit of about 703,000, right? But the following year, this is when this up. So every year we're going to reduce this down some to where we're now at a place where we're back to positive. Where did David go? There he is.
Okay, so the break even also coincides with the cash flow, neutral or positive?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that.
Okay.
Trust me, we didn't rehearse this. All right. So, talk about that.
David looks at this in his own company every.
I have a feeling David sees this stuff all day long and maybe have a few dreams. All right. So our cash flow, right? Let's take a look at something. Before we even get down to the expenditures, and I just want you to kind of see just the overall of how cash comes in and what goes out month over month. Molly, can you see this number here? I don't know if you $48,000 in revenues in July, right? We spent 294,000, right? Wow. All right, and look at every month over month here, right? What we're spending, right? But as I mentioned earlier, Brent, if you look up here, Mary Beth, I saw you touch this and it did something. Is that not true? It's me that can do that. Take a look here. When P1 gets certified, Brent, right, we start to see that increase. Look at what we were being paid on before, right? So now we're going to start to get a little bit more, right? And that's what we want to see. So a year from now, this number will double because we'll have more students. Our output every month is averaging roughly 400,000 on average. So if I sort of do that through July, 472,000 on average month over month. All right, so that's taking that, where our cash flow is taking a huge hit, and I'll show you what that looks like down here. Right. This is July, it's our cash, right? So we've been averaging, and what you don't see in here, because this is sort of netted together for presentation purposes, it would just be way too much information to digest here. But you can see our cash month over month where we're going, right? So here, even in December, we had beginning cash of 581,000, ended December 654. But then in January, right, we had a lot of Charter Schools Capital movement here, 499, February, 339,000. But as I mentioned, take a look at March and April, right? Boy, are we struggling, right? So we may have to, which is why I said we may have to do some borrowing in here again. I personally don't, we have to do it, but again, based on this, to David's point, yes, boy, we bleed through a lot of cash in the out months here, right? Because those expenses are now real, right? So these 2 months here, very tight. I'll talk to Charter Schools Capital. I have a meeting with them this week. We'll see where we're going with this, right? And we'll only borrow enough because, again, it's expensive, and especially with interest rates the way they are now, right? I think we're averaging probably 15%, give or take, right? Because the way that they do their factor, you don't know what the secret formula is, and they will never tell me, but on average, it's about 15%.
Do you know how many
days on average we hold the loans?
It varies depending on what we sell it, what we've sold and when they redeemed it, right? So as an example, if I go back and say, hey, let's not borrow anything in February, let's borrow something in March, whatever they sell us here is out. It may be May's revenues that they're purchasing, right? And so that's 30, 60 days, right? You know, so that's more expensive, right? Things like that. I think we've pushed ourselves all the way out to about here already with them, which is why I said, hey, I didn't really want to borrow anything here. I wanted to see if we could sort of get by as best we can without going back to that well, right? Because like I said, it's very expensive, but we may have to, right? And it's, you know, and again, it's just timing of revenues. I may project and say, oh, and Dr. Bean, you and I had this discussion the other day. State says, yeah, we're going to send you 100,000 for your PCSGP, but you got to wait 2 months to get it. And 2 months may roll around and it still may not show up, right? But I've projected it to be, you know, 2 months coming and it doesn't show up, then I kick the can down the road a little bit further. So that's the song and dance that I play with this. So to your point, David, yes, cash is an issue. And it will continue to be an issue until we sort of get, you know, more revenues coming in to offset all of this. Any other questions?
Thank you.
No worries. Miller, no, nothing from you. I like your picture. Bear with me 1 second, my good friends.
No question. You have a good job.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I've essentially presented you with the interim report, sir. You guys have already seen it, but I just want you to see a physical copy here for yourselves, etc. Right? Again, like I said, I don't like presenting this document because it's very cumbersome. So I will show you one last thing. Yes.
Delano, if you don't mind, I do have a simple question regarding the interest rate. So your projection, you know, for next year's borrow rate is still 15%, right?
Mm-hmm.
With collateral or no collateral?
No, well, the collateral, it will be our revenues, our future revenues, right? So what they will do is they will work up something, let's just say in June of next year, they'll take a look at our budget for next year and the total revenues, and then project off of that what they would like to borrow. Most of the time will be the biggest piece of our revenues, our LCFF, our property taxes, things like that. And I guarantee you those rates will be more expensive next year than they are this year.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So if, you know, one of the things that I'm looking for is another source, right? And I have some things in the works that will be more along the lines of a line of credit than this factoring here, right? Way cheaper, obviously. And it's, you know, it's through a commercial bank, and I finally found one that will sort of give me a meeting, right? Because usually I'll look at this, go, oh, you guys are a nonprofit, we won't touch you with a 10-foot pole. But I found one that's willing to at least have the conversation. So that's good news, at least on that front.
Okay.
Roughly, I don't know, maybe private information, but roughly how many schools do you work with?
7.
And I'm curious, yeah, because the cost of capital is so high that aren't any of the other schools asking, well, are there other revenue sources? Are there other borrowing sources?
Mm-hmm. And not everyone is in the same position. You know, some schools have been around longer, so they, you know, they're more seasoned and they've, you know, not had, you know, the rainy days, so to speak. So and they have different makeup of students. I give an example. I have a school that started in 2019-20, not the year 1920. And they have a high unduplicated count, roughly 90%. You know how much money they have? They could give you guys a loan if it was.
Yeah, it'd be open.
Yeah.
But I mean, that seems like a valuable service.
Yeah, I'm just little bit surprised that, you know, with the future revenue part, you know, at least a part of the revenue pledged against this loan, you still charge 15%. It's pretty hefty, don't you?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
There's,
Yeah.
I don't want to use the word short, but
I mean, yeah.
yes.
Especially we're operating as a going concern, this is a school, right? I mean, it's not gonna, you don't have the monthly or quarterly up and down, right? It's a pretty stable as you after you establish. And, without knowing the 15%, I thought it's gonna be in the upper single digit.
No, not
No.
even with interest rates. What are interest rates now? 8, 7,
Yeah.
somewhere, something like
No,
that.
no interest rate, the borrowing rate, it's gonna be projected. It's gonna be in March. It's gonna be 5 point something, right? The borrowing rate,
Borrowing rate about 5. So let's just push that to 6.
something like, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So this is more than double that, which is about what hard money
right.
rates are, overall. Yeah.
There aren't other options.
Yeah.
The risk.
Well, the risk, but you're selling receivables, so I guess, I don't know if it's really that risky or not. I'm not in that specific business, right? But there's a business opportunity here.
Absolutely. If there was if I wish I could talk to someone who had cash on hand and would be willing to invest it at 10% rate of return.
Well, I mean, I'm going to challenge the board because if we have board members that have connections and networks, let me just give you an example. I served on OCCA board, and it was their board member that got a community member to loan them $1 million at that percent interest. So I know, David, you're in the business world. I know you guys are in the business world. There's got to be somebody out there that will be willing to invest, get 10%.
Yeah, I'll check it around. Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
because it's not a high risk.
Not when you understand the environment and the business that we're in.
Right.
It's not high risk, but whenever someone hears a school or nonprofit, boy, it scares them off a little bit because they're thinking, "Oh, you guys are struggling." They don't really understand the nature of how all of this works.
Right.
So,
Okay. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
thank you.
If I'm playing the other side, I would say back to you, but it's short term for me. That's why the interest rate's so high. It's not just the risk, it's short term. You're done and you're borrowing my money for 3 months and
That's
again
it.
and back and forth. It's short term for me. So I gotta make my money when I can. Right?
This is
2 years from now,
capitalism
I
at
may
its
never see
finest.
you
Yes.
again. You may
Yeah.
never call me again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I gotta make my money when I can.
Mhm.
And that would be my response to that. But I'd like to make that money when I can.
And we're looking for
David,
partners,
call me
right?
later.
Well, thank you much, folks. That is my presentation. All right.
We'll be entertaining our motion to approve our interim budget during our action time too. And thank you, Dr. Green, as well for the reports, both the executive and the capital of the year. We'll move on to consent agenda items. Roman numeral 6. There's only one, and that's the board approving the board minutes from a prior meeting. Would someone like to move to approve our board meeting minutes? Are we good? Was that a second?
Yeah.
Alana? Great. We'll do a vote in sequence. We'll actually start with Miller. Approve the board minutes from last meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. I was attending remotely. Brett, you were in the meeting, and Alana? Okay.
Yes.
I just, your stock went up. Sorry about that. That's so silly. Oh, brother. We're going to move into Roman numeral 7, discussion on action items as well. With each of these, I'll pause at the beginning of each one just to see if there's public comment. We're going to begin with A, which is the board will consider and approve the 2023-2024 second interim financial report and revised budget as presented by Delano. Mary Beth, the public comments on item A. Any discussion from board members? I think we pretty much exhausted that. but always opportunity. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve item A.
I motion to approve item A.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second.
Second set, let's go ahead and start with vote from that side, Felipe
Yes.
and Brett. Doug is yes, and Molly
Yes.
and Miller.
Yes.
Okay, item A, approved.
And here. Yes.
David, yes.
David Singh is present and participating. We won't count the vote.
Oh,
Item
okay.
B, Mary Beth, let me know if anyone chimes in for public comment. Item B is where the board will consider and approve the revised Irvine International Academy Charter School bylaws. Dr. Bean, any highlights from your perspective on the changes? Obviously, we've had the bylaws for some period of time, but anything of particular emphasis that's important to you?
No, not really, other than just updating it with current legal language. And that's why I had the attorneys do so. They looked at our current bylaws and revised it because we need to update, for instance, where our business is established, right? And we needed to take out certain things that didn't need to be in there. So nothing that is a big change other than just update on legal jargon in this whole process. By the way, if you're approving the red line, you may not accept the changes because I want you to approve the changes and then we'll accept the
And
changes.
you'll go through the document.
Yeah.
Get on review.
Yep.
Very good. Board members, any thoughts or comments on the updated bylaws that we're considering? Is this by young lady?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
This is also to get prepared for expansion, right? We need to update our bylaws before we go to county in August. And so this was important to do.
Very good. Any other questions or thoughts on bylaws? I'll entertain a motion to accept the changes recommended by Young Minnie and Core and reviewed by our executive director. Item B, someone like to move? Okay, Brett moves. I'll second that one, and we'll start with Molly on Mary.
Yes.
I'm a yes as well, Mary Beth and Brett. Right, and Felipe
Aye.
and Miller.
Aye.
Okay, item B passes unanimously. Item C, board will consider and approve the 2024-2025 school calendar. There may be some discussion on this as well, done publicly, but board members, here it is, substantial changes from current year, Dr. Bean. And then I heard some rumblings too about perhaps a survey that might be done for a future year as well with parents. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is the proposed calendar. It's a traditional calendar, and it pretty much mirrors what we just went through. So again, five working days for teachers, start on August 15th. Last day of school is June 5th. It's sprinkled in between. We have 2 weeks of winter break. Then we have a Lunar New Year break and then a spring break. And then Thanksgiving is 3 days right here. In grand total, 180 student days, instructional days, and 189 teacher workday. That's how this is being presented. Then there were conversations from some parents, and I'll let Felipe talk about the possibility of us going to a year-round calendar, and I'll give my comments on that after Felipe.
Sure. So actually I have two things. Number one is there was some discussion from certain parents about going to a year-round calendar. And I have to admit that I'm not familiar I've heard those terms about schools, but I'm not familiar how that exactly works. And so that's why I asked Dr. Bean, perhaps like a little bit what that would entail and what that takes. And, for some reason, I had this idea there's just a magic wand that Dr. Bean waves and everybody's on the around kind of thing. But I know after certain discussions, that's not necessarily true. It's not that easy to switch. And so I was hoping you'd give them, enlighten them a little bit about the obstacles there. But
Yeah.
along with that, I'm gonna tell you my feeling about this, and we talked about it before you go on. I always felt, whenever I hear stuff like this, I always think that the grass is greener on the other side.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now I'm gonna repeat that. The grass is always greener on the other side. Just because you see some other school, you know, schedule, and there's benefits for that, it's not necessarily something you're gonna like after you get there. And one of the things I noticed, or one of the things that came up was if you have multiple students, one attending IIA and one attending a traditional Irvine school district school that's on a traditional calendar, and we're in a year-round one, there's a problem there, right? Because they're taking off and stuff. And so there's that, there's always that issue that comes up. So there's going to be parents who's going to be prefer that alignment to be with the traditional school. And so, when at first I thought it was a good thing, but then after a while I kind of think, well, I'm not so happy with that either, because when my child graduates and maybe moves to high school, the high schools here are all tradition. And if we're in year round, then I'll have that struggle. So any benefit I would have gotten from that would disappear. And also I just feel that having that traditional, we provide that traditional school, or year round, let some other school be year round, right? We're traditional, let some other school be year round. So that's kind of what I was thinking. Even though I brought it up, I wanted to know more before I just said we can't do it or something like that.
Yeah, so I'm glad you and along with some other parents have pushed us to actually do some research on this. So in response to what you said, I like your response. I'm sharing.
You're sharing.
So before I tell you the things that are involved in changing our calendar from a traditional to a year-round, this is an example of a year-round in Irvine Unified and an example of one from the other charter school. Basically, what you see is the difference is that school would begin in, I hope this is the right one. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Okay. School begins on July 24th, opposed to our school beginning August 15th. So 3 weeks, right? So that means that the teachers are off all the way until the 16th, and then 5 days before school, you would have professional development. So the teachers really would get the rest of June and 2 weeks of July off for summer. Then they come back and they work all the way until September. And you see September is 1 week off, 2, 3. They get 3 weeks off at the end of September. Then they come back on the 15th. And then Thanksgiving's about the same. And then winter break, they get 1, 2, 3 weeks off winter break. So those are the two differences, right? Instead of these 3 weeks, you would get in a year round. In a traditional, you don't get those. And winter break, same, they get 3. Then this calendar doesn't have the Lunar New Year, right? They get just a few days off for Lunar New Year, which is the 30th, 31st. And then instead of 1 week of spring break, you have 2 weeks at the end of March and beginning of April. Then you go all the way till June, the middle of June, instead of the first week of June, you go to the middle of June, and then the process starts all over again, where you get 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 weeks off, 4.5 weeks off. So that's the year-round calendar. So here's the process. One, researcher with OCDE, and they said that we don't have to do a material revision. Okay, so that's good news. That makes it a little bit easier. However, you really have to get stakeholder engagement. So stakeholder engagement would include maybe the 5 parents that have presented this to me,
But I'd have to do a school-wide survey on this. Because even if it's, honestly, even if it's 50 parents that say, we want school year or year-round school. And then my 320 families say, no way, then it's not worth it. That's one stakeholder, but the other stakeholders are staff. So let's say we survey our teachers, and our teachers, even if we have 75% of our teachers say, yeah, let's do year round. If we have 25%, that means I have to replace a quarter of our teaching staff to people that would want to go year round. And I remember as a teacher myself, I didn't like the year round schedule at all. Actually taught in a modified year round like this and traditional, and I always like the traditional, get the summer off. Teachers love summer off because they really get to travel and do a lot then. So that's a big issue, is staff. Yeah.
I'm gonna springboard off that a
Yeah.
little bit. So as a parent now, you're right. You could travel during the summer, right, in the traditional. But in the non-traditional, what am I gonna do with my kid on September 23rd till the 11th? There's no programs for me to put my kid in some camp
Right.
like I can in summertime. In the traditional schools during the summertime, there's tons of camps available to morning.
Correct.
What am I gonna do? You know, pick another week there. Well, there's a week of March, the 24th, all the way to the 4th. That's 2 weeks. What am I gonna do with my kid for 2 weeks there in March? There's no camps for that, right? So, as a working parent, you know, who's planning on my kid to be at school during that time, what am I gonna do with it?
Right.
You know, so that's a difficulty. You know, I think the vision is that, hey, I could go on vacation that week, right? I can go on a cheap vacation that week. Well, I can't go to vacation for March. I got a job, you know? I can't go again in March, and then where's another October and July? I can't be doing that anyway, you know, personally.
Yeah.
So that's where I would push back as a parent to you. So that's my feedback there.
So of my nearly 30 years of experience in education, this is a unique setting in that many of our families take vacation throughout the school year. They do. And so that definitely impacts our attendance. On the flip side to what you're saying, they like to go on vacation. And so this kind of a calendar would make it easier because it's off season. So they'd be able to go, for instance, October, right? There's 3 weeks of October and of September. That's off season. So they'll be able to go to vacation cheaper. You know, you got this 3 weeks in March and April. Well, that's actually not off season, but the week after, well, actually I look at this, there's really only one off season.
Yeah, there's not that much.
There's not that much off season.
Maybe September, October.
And that's about it.
March, April.
Yeah, and the rest are all in season.
And our parents, like you said before, the ones that we have an issue where they pick up their kids to go to China but they don't go just for 3 weeks, do they? They go for longer terms than that.
Oh, yeah, some went for 6 weeks long.
Yeah, they go 6 weeks long because it's worth it for them to go that long.
Right.
So, you know, those folks, yeah, maybe maybe they'll go during those weeks, right? That
Right.
doesn't stop them from going March 3rd, right?
Right.
And the kids should be in school, they just go. So I'm not so sure that helps us that much.
Yeah.
Molly, did you, in your career, taught in a modified schedule like this or year-round? This is modified year-round, it's not pure 45.
Right, right.
So I actually taught at, student taught at year-round school. So, but same thing with my old school district. We always hear parents mention about this. Most of the time it's because they have older kids or other kids in the year-round. So they want us. But I remember we did that for many years. Every year we talk to parents, they have to vote. Teachers have a vote, and so in our district we have 6 schools. Only one is year-round, and the others are tradition. So when people say, "We just want you want year-round," you go in there. But I think from the teacher's point of view, when I talk to there's some advantage of the year-round. If you look at it, they kind of have a solid learning fall. Yeah, and then they really have a break. And when the kids come back, it's like, it's not just a week that you have to take another break. And it's so they know this is like a brand new season. So I talked to my friends, they kind of like that. And I do see that because with the traditional, there will be time you know, the kids just had it, especially springtime. It just had it, you know, you can't put any more in there. Whereas the year-round school, that's when they have a break. So there are some advantages to
I
it.
would think it would even out the learning loss, you know, because we have that traditional school, there's 3 months, by the time the kid comes back, you know, there's that learning loss and all that. But here, like I didn't think of it that way. I thought, well, there'd be less of the learning loss with those 2 or 3 weeks, but you're right, it's more of a break. So once you
Yeah.
fill them up, give them a chance to recover and come back.
Just before we continue discussion, I think back to Robert's rule, we need the motion on this calendar and then have discussion. And then you guys continue discussing.
Sure.
So you should probably motion on this calendar.
I have a question about the calendar itself.
The,
When you go back to the calendar. you
Yep.
go Back to our calendar.
Yep. Let me see if I
That's
find it
it,
here.
right, so this is our calendar.
Yes.
I noticed that midweek is the half day. Right, Wednesday?
Yes.
Wednesday is that, why can't it be Friday? Why can't we move that to Friday? Why does the half day have to be on Wednesday?
Couple of answers to that.
Right.
So 2 reasons. One, that's Irvine Unified's half day or minimum day. And so when parents are picking up other kids from other schools, that's number one.
Same idea.
That's the biggest thing, yeah. And then the second thing is, I did survey the staff last year on switching to Friday, and they pretty almost unanimously chose Wednesday. They saw some certain merit to Fridays, but they wanted that Wednesday, they liked the Wednesday because it gives a good break in the middle of the week to have minimum day and then plan for Thursday and Friday and do PD. Versus if you're doing PD on a Friday because you have minimum day on Friday, it's hard for them to keep their attention when they want to start the weekend.
When they go around to Monday,
Right.
Learning loss.
Learning lots for them, correct, yeah.
Learning loss for them to come back on Monday.
Right.
Okay.
And I think for the teachers too, we'd love it to have it in the middle because it's minimum day, you know, that in the afternoon, if it's a Friday, it's hard. That means they really have to stay
Yeah.
for the PD for the teachers.
Yeah.
And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it should be hard to get my kids to come into school on Friday.
If it's only
member.
member, that's right, that's right. That's right.
Less likely, probably get more absenteeism.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can motion this and then finish the discussion on.
Sure. I'll move then that we adopt the calendar as presented at this point.
I'll second.
Now we can continue discussion.
Yeah, open
And
discussion,
then
yeah.
we'll do our vote. One of the reasons that back in 1976 that year-round came about was we're no longer harvesting crops. No, I'm kidding, but that is true. No, it was capacity of middle schools.
Yeah,
And you would run 4 tracks and you would never have 1 track there, so you got a 25% capacity increase.
right,
And Southern California was bursting.
yes.
I was the experimental child and I'm still twitching. No, I'm kidding. Again, depending on your lifestyle, it can be very good and flexible. Others have probably created some issues. So trade-offs on everything. I think you articulated really well as you were thinking it through too, Felipe, and discussion. And then teachers, of course, sometimes very positives. Other times you're like, I'm going to give up something here. So,
You know, I think that a good point you had, and this, that, probably not make too many people happy, but you don't like our traditional school, there's another option. Right? There's other full schedule schools available. I like those. There's other things available. You know, and so,
we can't be both.
yeah, we can't be both. And so, yeah, number one. And partially, I mean that in 2 ways. One, of course, there's options. You know, we're part of the option.
Mhm,
We're part of the option, and our option is we're a teacher,
mhm,
right? But there is an option for year round.
mhm,
That works better for you. It's available.
mhm.
But we would not get any capacity increase if we followed the other schedule. That's just a modified schedule.
Correct,
They call it year-round, and maybe it is, but really it's just a modified schedule.
that's right,
And they're not giving any capacity increase. They're not holding the fort for the kids off campus.
right.
So ours had 4 color tracks, and I was on B track, and I never met that cute girl on A track.
But I wonder, with 270 families, I wonder if that's something we should consider for a future, like, if we don't have more room here, could we put them on such a track where we have 3/4 of our families here at one time? That's it's interesting thought.
We started them. You have to think about that one. We started them when our kids are gone, when there's kids gone, okay, in the summertime, right? You know,
Right.
kind of a
First,
hybrid,
yeah.
you know, kind of a, if you split it. I'm looking here, I'm just thinking this out loud. You split it, right? And they don't cross too much. Then one set would definitely be in an off vacation time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It would be, you could split it, and so that there's some of the, half of them are in time frame when there is a vacation schedule available, you know.
Yeah.
cheaper thing. But you have to think about that.
Yeah, that's boggling my mind right now. So.
Yeah, that seems a little tough. Anyway, we already approved, right?
We haven't.
Well, you haven't voted yet,
Yeah.
but what I will do is I can certainly get the stakeholder input. I mean, we approved this calendar and it stays this way, but I can promise parents that we will have an engagement where you can give us your input. We can look at these options. Any change though wouldn't happen until the next school year, the year after.
I think that is the message we want to communicate to parents. We're open to hearing whenever good ideas or
Yeah,
opportunities arise. So, yeah, we don't discount them.
yeah.
But initially, this is what is on the floor for a vote. Miller, any comment before a vote? Or
No.
David? Okay.
No, I'm okay.
Let's go.
One last thing.
Yeah.
So just picking your brain. So if we went to year round, right, but the number of, or the minutes of schooling stays the same.
Days of
right?
school stays the same,
So does the cost,
great Visa card can help find some out.
does the cost for the school stay the same? Or does it go up?
Yeah, I just talked to Delano about that. He said, no, I mean, everything is pretty much the same, but obviously, the funding is the same. Okay, so we get funding each
The
month.
funding is the same.
The funding is the same.
So there's no advantage there.
No advantage there. The expenditures may be a little bit different, except for right now, we currently have our staff teachers on a 10-month salary. So in a year round, we'd have to probably spread that 10-month into a 12-month, right? Which,
Something-
yeah,
Something, I don't know how that would work. I'd be curious about that part.
yeah.
Anyway,
Very good.
I'm
That's
done.
good. Great discussion. Well, let's,
Now you can tell the parents. we talked.
Now I know. This is what I wanted to.
Yes.
let's take a vote then on approving item C, the school calendar is presented. Let's start online with Miller. Miller, you approve the calendar as presented by Dr. Mead?
Yay.
Thank you. I'll go to my left, Molly.
Yes.
I'm a yes at this point too, and Brett,
Right?
and Felipe.
Yes.
And we know David participated, but we won't count the vote. It's unanimous. then.
Yeah.
Mary Beth. Item D, the board will consider the revised or the 2024-25 campus safety plan. Dr. Bean, any highlights that you would point out that you're proud of and just continue our development and safety? By the
Yeah,
way, just kind of point out as a backdrop, you know, there's current legislation being considered to require an armed security person on every elementary campus. That's just a little, just be aware of politically some things that might come about. But our safety plan.
Our kinder parents would certainly love that. They asked for that in the beginning of the year, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to update or send updated annually the safety plan. And so one thing we need to add was this section that I'll highlight. Everything else remains the same. But let me just pull this up real quick. So the administration of I can't even say the word naloxone or whatever, Narcan, right?
Mm.
So this is an antagonist drug that is given to somebody who had overdosed on opioids.
California Ed Codes authorizes but does not require school districts or schools to have Narcan available for OD. But however, because we have 7th grade now, we do need to provide what we're going to do in that case. So I had to insert this whole clause. And then it says IIA does not provide emergency Narcan or another opioid antagonist on its campus. However, according to Ed Code 32282, IA's protocol is to call 911 should any person suffering or reasonably believed to be suffering from an opioid overdose. So that's what our school will do. If somebody suffering from an opioid overdose, we'd call 911 and they would come and handle the situation. Other schools, larger districts, however, they do actually administer Narcan. But that would be probably too much for us in administering. So that's the main addition to the safety plan. And everything else pretty much remains the same. And you're gonna approve the updated version, and then also approve that there are, what we do annually is just update with new staff, let me show you, the school committee dates and the, what we call this incident command system, where we plug different people in these committees when there's an emergency. So this will change in the fall with our new staff. But today you'll just go ahead and approve the plan and then prove that the executive director will obviously be allowed to make updates to the plan as new staff turns over. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And you did approve this 2 years ago. So by approving it today, we can change that to today's date.
Well, we'll do it in the Robert Rules of Order. I'll make a motion that we approve and look for a second. Yeah, we're gonna discuss for sure. I think, yeah, Molly was willing to second. Yeah, let's go to our discussions. Missing a period.
Oh, where?
You know, he is eagle eye.
I know,
editor,
back in that page.
And not to outdo Brett, because they never could, but the word offenses, they need to be spell checked, because it has one spelling that's legitimate with SES at the end, another with CES, one is Queen's English, one is US English.
All right, the period goes here, done. And then what did you say?
Same page, bottom line, right corner, little higher, just go up a little bit, or I'm sorry, the other way, right there. All right side.
Yes, and actually, there we go.
I think you can pass it.
Good job, good job.
Okay, we must say it
I like
in
that.
reverse.
I
Just trying to say.
like that, I like that.
Oh, that's very good. Well, let's then ask for a vote. Miller, if you're okay with me starting with you online, would you approve then the campus safety plan and the actions that Dr. Bean will take to update and inform your staff members and update with their participation?
Yay.
Okay, and going to Molly?
Yes.
And Doug is a yes as well, Brett?
Aye.
And Felipe?
Yes.
Very good. And thank you, David, too, for looking ahead at that. Then moving to item E, the board will approve the Larry and Helen Hope Foundation grant for $25,000. Is this one that either Brett or Dr. Bean might highlight the focus?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Brett do that, but I'm trying to find the letter in the board doc. board
She's
doc.
in there.
It's in?
One more down.
Right there, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The purpose of this is in covering the cost of additional smart boards like the one we're looking at for the classrooms and new laptops for the employees.
Wow. Wow.
And it'll help us with our cash flow shortage for March and February, but yeah, very nice of them.
Wow. First of all, thank you for this consideration and attentiveness too. As we grow, it feels great when there's equitable smart boards and other technology available. And somebody just always feels bad if they're the last one that got on the, onto our staff, and they're like, I don't have that advantage, I can't call it mine. Did you finish with smart boards?
Yes, I am.
They're powerful what they can do and such. Hey, since Dr. B's out there, I don't have to follow perfect Robert rules, but any discussion or praise or other thoughts?
During time, when kids are first time on the scene, it's something you can make them acknowledge them.
We're hoping to do that in the gala, right?
Something we gotta keep them in mind, right? I mean, like that.
Can we invite them to the gala so they'll see that?
See where their 25,000 is going to. So maybe I'm gonna put that on you to keep that in mind.
Why would we a formal invitation to exchange it?
Yeah.
I think even if they decline it, we could then
We have that.
acknowledge them, but I think it's always good, because it could be very busy.
You gotta keep them in the loop. You
Let's,
gotta do
let's,
something, right?
we'll tag that for the last discussion,
Yeah.
because I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's a nice thank you.
I don't know what that is, but
Wow.
if that's what you need, then we do.
For those that are joining us later on a recorded version or live right now, you can find that document and that letter in the board packet, and it's wonderful. Any other discussion before I entertain a motion to accept the grant from the Larry and Helen Hogue Foundation?
Yay.
Then I'll ask for a motion. I'm kind of hoping that Miller might get on the board for a motion tonight.
Yes, I will take that motion that move that.
And I'll go ahead and second that, and we'll start online then with a vote, roll call vote. Miller,
Yay.
Molly,
Yes.
and I'm 2 thumbs up. Brett, will you abstain from this one? Okay, thank you. And then Felipe?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. And David, if you're still with us, you may not be.
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm sure you've got praise for the Larry and Helen Hogue Foundation. Anything you want to add, just comment on that?
Yeah, support it, no problem.
Okay, thank you. This is wonderful. Wow, perfect time. Brings us to our last discussion and action item. It's primarily discussion, and it's the discussion about would this be our second annual gala? Felipe, you did such a beautiful job last year, and it seems to be in your blood. Share us a little bit with us a little bit about the vision and maybe things we can be doing as board members.
Yeah. Sure. Have you got that gala invite there? Why don't I send you an email?
Yep. This one?
Go down, right there.
Okay, let me pull it up.
You pull it up right there.
Right there.
Okay, so, as you know, the Vision Camp Gala is one of the major fundraisers for our school. We made some progress from last month. We're hitting that road. Actually, this week, Thursday, we're going to be hitting it up pretty hard here with PTO. Much of the coordination is going to be done through the PTO this year as opposed to last year. I think it's kind of a mix between the administrative staff and the PTO. Gala is scheduled. You see the invitation there, the official invitation, which is being printed out. I would say tomorrow. Tomorrow is the holiday, and the May 4th. That is a Saturday from 5 o'clock in the afternoon until I believe it's 11 p.m. So it is a dinner event. It is at the Hilton across from the Orange County Airport, in the main ballroom. We have multiple rooms available to us, but the grand ballroom, which is where the main event will be. There'll be dancing stage, and we also will have our gallery for our kids, the same thing we did last year. We're following almost the same template right down the line. The cost for the tickets are the same, so it's $100 for a kid, $150 for adults. We have $2,000 sponsor tables, which is right in line with everything we did last year. We had about 171 or was 179 families I'm going to call tickets sold. We are anticipating 250 this year. So that is our target. So, because of the growth of the school, and we believe we can make that work. As far as the entertainment is concerned, the deal signed. Deal has been signed, so we have our deposit, get the contract signed with Hilton, so there's no turning back now. Right, we're going full force now. As far as what we're planning, again, presentation. There'll probably be a cocktail hour in the beginning. There's a nice outside patio to get everybody kind of relaxed, loosen their wallets a little bit, and then move them inside. We have a dinner plan, part of the entertainment this year. We're going to try to focus more with showcasing our students. So one of the things, we'll have a music presentation, also potentially a band dance presentation from these students here, 10 students here. We're also planning to potentially have, I'm going to call it a presentation of our Russian speaking students. So our families. So there's potentially, because we are a diversified school, we're hoping to get them to get involved here. Additionally, we will have the auction again. And the website is open, right? Remember that?
Yes.
You go to the website here. Actually, I have it here. Just going to show you really quick. Go to the website here. I don't know if you have the school website. Just pop up the school website here.
All right, let me do that right now.
School website is already on there, being announced right from the very beginning, right there at the bottom. I assume you're gonna make that text bigger after today, right?
Yes, after
You know, and then you take out move it up the line there, the gala events is there at the bottom. Go all the way down to the bottom. Don't click it, but if you click that one, it has the donor doc is there. So if you go in there, I'm gonna call it the legal statement, actually the invitation. Go in there. So this is what we call the donor document, and that may be what we send to Helen Hope, kind of. That's something I think you should look at. Look at that, and then go back, Mr. Bean, go back one step there. The official, that one, the job one there, if you pick that, that's where the money comes in. That's where you buy your tickets and make your donations and such. All that information is there. So we are accepting payment as of last week. I already bought the first table, so last year Tiffany beat me. So this year I'm in. So there you go. And too bad Delano left, because I was going to hit him up for
That's right, a table.
the table or something, right?
That's right.
So that's pretty much all we have going on today. But starting to Thursday, after I'm latching on to the PTO meeting. After the PTO meeting, after official function, we're gonna talk a little bit some more. But yeah, invite your friends, family, they can go right here, get all the information, but they don't have that hard copy. Oh, the hard copy invitation, should have it probably next week. And out to the kids and all the families and that kind of stuff.
And we need some auction prizes from the board.
Yeah, so we have a committee on the PTO who started the auction activities to gather stuff. And that's what that donor sheet is for.
Mhm.
Who is going to donate. You can donate stuff. And put that on there, right there, last sheet there it is. You can donate things to the school and stuff for the auction. Your coffee with Dr. Bean, is that this week, Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Is that this
Yes.
week? So, yeah, there you go. You've got a topic to talk to them about. You mentioned that you mentioned the Galloway, right? I just give you the standard training that I give everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Right there, those are the two documents that you really kind of need to see. And maybe we can, Mary Beth, maybe we can get the other invitation, the gold one, somewhere on up here. Right, we can add that in there. So that's what I got going on. That's the gallon. Any questions?
Wow,
Get your dancing shoes on.
that's great.
You know,
And if I'm not mistaken, that's Star Wars Day.
May 4th.
May
is,
4th, that's right.
Traditionally the Star Wars Day. That's correct.
That's our theme,
Don't-
just by the way, just so you know. So you have to dress up and,
Don't think that is lost on a certain individual. So you, if you show up, if you show up to the school, if you show up to the gala, be ready to be pleasantly surprised.
Fantastic.
I'm not gonna
Awesome.
tell you what it is, but there's a secret.
Oh,
And
cool.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's in Europe. It's May 4th.
Well, that's great. We'll do a round robin just for any board member comments or praise.
can I say something real quick?
Yes, please.
This is a great opportunity for our board members to invite those who'd be willing to either potentially give us $1 million loan as an investment, or just donate money or auction prizes, because this is where we're going to showcase our school. We'll have performances.
A lot more than we did last year.
Yes,
Last year, we had some limitations and but we did have performances, that had a Chinese component to it.
that's right.
This year, I'm trying to focus more on the kids. Oh, I haven't told this in this gesture yet, but I think we should have our science project winners come.
Yep.
And
Present.
display their stuff, because there's plenty of room in the gap in the ballroom.
Love it.
Display their winning science project. And also we should acknowledge them
Mhm.
on the stage in front of everybody, because we're showing off our school, those are 3 or 4, that's 4 winners, right? That we to be shown, and also the spelling bee. Or there were winners, there's more than one winners that they're ready, you know, to display. So-
And I believe you talked to Alex for some music performance.
I don't wanna
Quartet.
run out of the bag,
Oh,
but-
sorry.
Don't run out of the bag, but.
Yeah.
There's a musical presentation of the students.
Yeah, so this is the time to showcase our school to potential funders.
Yep, yep, and we're gonna really push for this, and, yeah. So we're gonna
And-
know
and-
about it.
That 30,000 will be knocked out very easily, right?
So, and so now I'm gonna feel tougher here. Those parents that haven't made those big donations, there's some parents that can't do that. This is an opportunity for them to make a small donation that puts the school in.
Right.
I'm not asking for, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10,000. Even that small donation, that parent donation, big donation,
Mhm.
it's going right to the school for the programs here.
Mhm.
So, that's how that's probably why I shouldn't be talking to parents. That's what I'm thinking. That's the way I'm spinning it. You can, and you're gonna have a good time.
Mhm.
So it is your small donation you provide to the school, and you're gonna have it. That's the way it's been.
So for the incoming fall families, maybe we can also promote this.
That's a great idea.
To them too.
That's a great idea,
It's a
Brett.
big draw. We do have the video from last year. There's a link on the website from last year. I don't know where it is exactly, but it was there. We'll put this up there. I'm not sure where that is, Mary Beth, and she can help with that. But we do have the link to the previous gala. Always running, showing the letter right here. The letter tells you all, oh, we are having this letter updated in Chinese and the rest. But I'd be available to you soon.
Awesome.
Well, we'll do a little round robin to just any board member comments. I'll start over here.
Don't know how to describe this. I feel like this family had grown, not just the student attendance in all areas. Thank you, Dr. Bean and the Mayor Beth. And there's so much you can tell by today's your report. So detailed, so thorough, and I know there's a lot of work into it. And the result is just amazing. I just can't wait to, see us finish this year, moving into another year. And same thing, even with when Delano was explaining the financial situation, I feel like he's not just giving the report for our school, it's for his school. The way that he shared and explained it, it's like, he's part of it. And for him to continue to look for revenue for us, it's just amazing. So I'm just
I think we're
so
fortunate to have Bill on here, but he
Yes.
still has to buy.
yes.
Nobody gets it.
Miller, let's hear a little from you. Any final comments?
Yeah, it just been a crazy year, trouble with, China, but just kind of I just tried not to miss any board meetings because I just felt that not just the ownership, but just seeing the growth and then also the harmony that working together and then to see and then providing a safe haven for all the children and family. So this is a very peaceful place that, children can grow and then family can participate and then the leader can be here to learn and then to grow together. So I echo with Molly say that it's just like a family. Thank you, y'all.
Felipe. Or David. David first, since you're online. David, any comments for either our executive director or other board members?
Oh, yes, I just want to comment, and I think this is one of the, even I'm not there with you guys, but I think this is one of the very well run meeting. I can see that the schools are becoming more and more, formal. I say formal in a positive way. And because everything is done more professionally, with everything from Dr. Bean's report and Delano's report, everything. I'm pleased to see a lot of changes being made. We can really focus on some of the issues, and sometimes we can delve into the issues. Well, don't necessarily lose the sight of the big picture. I think it's great. I'm very, very enthusiastic about what may bring about this year and the years ahead. Thank you, Dr. Bean and Mary Beth, and also thank the whole team.
Wonderful. Felipe.
I guess we're wrapping up the gala discussion for director comments.
Mhm.
Right? Are we doing that?
Exactly.
Okay, before I go, you're buying a ticket, right, David? You're buying a ticket for the gala, right, David?
What's that?
Yeah.
You're buying a ticket for the gala, right, David?
Yeah.
At the table, right? I'm gonna see you next to my table, right?
Yes. All right.
Okay, real quick.
Miller gave thumbs
Yeah,
up, so he's
real
been.
quick. So I do have a little, I'll try to make this short, but since it's the director comments, I have something for all of you. This is the homework, you probably see this, but this is the homework that comes home with my kid. So second grade, this is the example of the stuff we get. There's one in particular that I want you to see here. This is a homework here, and I don't know if you've seen this one, but it's the sheet, right? And I read this one. So two things, it shows you that as a parent, I am watching what they're doing at the school. But this one in particular, this one was over. If I could go to the Dr. Bean coffee tomorrow, this is the one that I would show all the parents that show up. It says right here, it shows them how to make goals, how to achieve your goals. She had to write down 3 examples, practice every day, make breakfast make every breakfast, and do my best every day. That's her goal, achievement goal. And then it says, I'm going to skip to this one, specific goal. It says, learn to do my 4 times table by the end of January 2024 and learn to cook. The cook one, it's coming along. The 4 times table one came through. And then it says, measurable goal because, and she puts on here, my mom will test me and I will grow up.
That's awesome.
So that's her measurable goal. And she put the date of when that goal had to be. But the biggest thing is right here. It says that this goal is relevant and important to me because, And this was her answer: to make my brain smarter and get a good job. And I gotta tell you, right there, that is almost everything on here, especially that is right in line with the teaching I give her as a parent. So it's being reinforced on both ends. This is fantastic. And I think I wish there were parents who could see, who really spent a little bit of time looking at the information, what's being taught to their kids at the school.
Yeah.
And if you springboard off that, you're gonna get a stellar kid. And that's just my opinion. So I wanted to bring that up as a board. Thank you. This is really, well, everybody thanks you. Thank the teacher. And the curriculum and whatever. Whoever came up with all this stuff. Right?
Amazing.
There you go.
Thank you.
There you go. That's my report.
That was a great one. Brett, comments for either Dr. Bean or the board members?
It's just a pleasure to be, it's just a pleasure to listen to the outcome of the time that OCD was here. It was really special to hear it for the staff, administration, teachers here. The parents should hear it, but it's really I'm very proud of the organization. So thank you.
Wow. And I'll just quote them from our accreditor. The kids had manipulatives in their hands for math. Their work was on display. Collaboration was happening between teachers and within the classroom. There was group learning and pleasant and welcoming environment, metacognition and rigor. And the teachers were using data to drive the education. And all of this and so much more. Just a great season. And so thank you, Dr. Bean, to all of the staff that serves along with you. And we're grateful as a board.
Yeah, thank you.
With that, then we'll look for a motion to adjourn our meeting. Could I entertain that motion?
Make motion, we end this.
Okay, thank you. I'll second it, and we'll start with you on a vote to adjourn. Felipe?
Oh, yes.
Okay, Brett? Doug is a yes. Molly?
Yes.
Online with Miller, and then David?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Well, wonderful, and we'll see you soon, and for sure at the gala.
All right.
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, wait. Miller, have you, now that the meeting's over, have you guys done your 700 forms?
Yes, I did.
Good. Perfect. Did online? David?
Yes.
I have not. I would take care of that. Yeah.
Okay. It's online this year, so if you want to come in with Mary Beth, she'll help you out.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Felipe needs help to do it online.
I was doing that.
Bye.
Okay. All right. Bye, guys. Thank you.
I know. I did something.
Bye bye.
Thank you, David.
We'll talk, huh?
We talk. OK， 我
All
看
right.
就是那个 Gallup 会过来。
哦，OK，你还会到南加州过来吧？
我应该5月才过来，因为我
OK，
现在马上又要回中国。对，
我也差不多，我3月份想就回去，
你3月多少号？
大概在中旬吧，3月
那我
中，
们也都差不多，我
大概
也是大概中旬。
17、18号啊，估计。
我原来计划就是18号飞，先到香港，然后就从香港去珠海。
哦，你到香港去，我原来也是计划的飞到香港，现在可能想飞到上海去，
是吧？
呀，
那我们可能就在国内见了，我也要去上海的呀，其实。
好，说不定我们在国内见。
好的，
好嘞，
好
take care 啊，好的
，You take care，
You too，bye。
拜拜。